Okay, so this is going to be to show you how to create a fade in and out. And we're going to use a little ghost because it's really easy to do um, for this example. So like all the others, we're going to do Photoshop. All right, so it's in Photoshop. We're going to create new, and we're going to call this one Ghost Fade. And it's going to be 5 inches by 5 inches, 72 pixels per inch. Make sure that you don't make it anything different because that's screen resolution. So if you make it bigger, it's going to be really big and it might not save as a GIF. RGB color, white background, and create. All right. So I already have this window open because I opened it before. So the timeline is here, right in the list under the windows. So that's what this thing is down here. And we want to make sure that we choose create frame animation. And because I've already used it, it's defaulting to that. But a lot of times when you first open the app, it's create video timeline, and we don't want to use that. We're going to use create frame animation. So we're doing frame by frame. And then this is actually a button. So we press the button and it gives us, it starts our little timeline. Right now there's nothing, right, to see because I haven't drawn anything. But I'm going to make a little ghost in a room and I'm going to make it fade in and out. So you're going to learn how to fade. So I'm going to quickly just draw a simple room. And I'm going to make a little corner on this because I'm going to do something a little different than what I showed the other classes. So I'm going to choose a black to do my lines. And I'm going to use the pen, the brush tool. And I'm going to use the pencil tool because I want to make it straight up. I'm going to make it 5 pixels, 100% normal, smoothing, no. And then I'm going to draw a little room. So I'm going to just draw my room. And I'm pressing shift click so I can get this corner. Actually, I want to make it a little shorter than that. I'll make it go here. If you hold shift and you drag, it'll make it go straight. So if I click and I hold shift, and it'll make it go straight. So there's my little room. Okay, not very neat corner, but then I'm going to make some color on it. So I'm just going to pick like a light, a medium blue. I want something, and I'm going to dump my paint bucket. Dump a cup. Whoops, why did it make it? Swap that. Okay. Make it slightly darker, give it a little depth. And then the floor will make darker. All right, so there's my room. This is a little room that I'm gonna put my ghost in. All right, so the first thing I'm gonna do is I need to make the ghost. So I have to make a new layer. So the background is the static layer that nothing is going to be on it. And then I am going to go to the mini drop down on the layers menu and choose new layer and call it G100. Actually, since we only have one thing, I'm just going to call it 100. But if you have a lot of things, then you want to name it, something that's close to what you're making. So we're going to call this 100 because this is going to be a 100% opacity ghost. And I'm going to use my pencil tool and I'm going to change my color to white. And I'm going to draw a ghost. So I'm just going to draw a little ghost. No arms. You can draw it however you want. There's my ghost. Okay. Oh, I meant to fill it. Let's fill it with a color. We'll fill it. All right, and then I will erase away. I'll use my little lasso tool. I'll erase away his face. This is really not important, but hold the shift key. There. All right, so there's my ghost. So now I have one layer and I can move my ghost wherever I want, right? I'm gonna just put it right here for now. And then I'm going to make 10 layers of this ghost because it's gonna fade in and fade out. So I'm going to right click, duplicate layer, and call it 90. I'm gonna be making these a different opacity, but first I'm gonna make all my layers. Then I'm gonna do one for 80. Duplicate layer. You don't wanna change the opacity like as you go, because then it's going to take the opacity that you change it to and it won't be right. So you wanna first just make all of your layers and then we'll change the opacity. So I'm just duplicating layer 50%, duplicating layer 40%. So I'm calling these the number of the percentage of opacity that I'm gonna make them. So I'm gonna make it all the way down to 10. All right, so now I have 10 layers here going from 10% to 100, except for right now, they are all 100%. So what I'm gonna do is one at a time, I'm gonna hide them all. So I'm clicking the eyeballs and hiding them all, and 100 is done. So I'm gonna hide that. I'm gonna click on 90 and make sure that you click on that layer. Otherwise, you might be on the wrong layer. So you gotta click on the layer to make sure it's highlighted and then go to the opacity and change it to 90%. So I typed in 90, hit enter. So it's just a little bit, you can just barely see it. I'm gonna hide that, go to 80, click on 80 so it's highlighted, change the opacity to 80, right? And you can see that it's changing on the ghost. I'm gonna go to 70 and you gotta do this for each one. So I'm going to change that to 70 and make it the same opacity as the number that you've chosen. But always make sure that you're on it. 60, 50, and I like to unhide and hide them as I go so I can make sure that I'm getting it right and that I've got it done. 20, and then 10. All right, so 10 is pretty faint. And then I'm gonna go ahead and turn them all on. Now that I've got them all changed to the opacity of what I've done, what I named them, each opacity is the same as the name of the layer for the ghost. Now, if I was doing all kinds of other things, then I probably would have called it ghost 1, you know, ghost 100, ghost 90, etc. But since this is the only thing that we're putting in here, we don't have to do that. Now I'm going to make layers from frames. So as you can see, it's putting in the default frame at the beginning, and I am going to go ahead and use the mini drop down in the timeline here down at the bottom. And I'm going to do make frames from layers. So that makes a frame from every layer, right? And it also hides and unhides the layers as you go. So if we're on 1, right, it's made background a layer, and then 100, and then it goes on down. If you watch at the layers as I'm clicking and see how it's going to each one. So it's put it in the order that I have it. It always starts at the bottom and goes to the top. Okay, so, but we want the background to be on all these layers. So we need to click on these and select them. So I'm gonna select number 2, which is 100% layer. And then I'm gonna press Shift and select 11. So all of these layers, I'm gonna add the background just by unhiding it from the layers menu. So now you can see that they're all in order and it's fading away. But I want my ghost to fade in and then out. So I'm going to reverse these frames. I'm going to leave this one. You know how we deleted it in the Waving Man? I'm going to leave this one because I do want it to be blank, because it's just, oh, great. I don't know if that's going to show in the video, but for some reason I must have hit the hot corner from my computer to go on sleep for a second. All right, so I'm going to reverse these frames. So I'm going to click on number 2 because that's the solid one, and number 11 is 10%. So I'm going to click on 2 and hold shift and click on 11, and I'm going to reverse them. So I go reverse frames. So now I've got nothing and then fades in as we go through each layer. And you can see that as I click on them, it's choosing the percentage in the layers, right? It's getting more and more solid. But I want this to kind of be in a loop. So I don't want it to jump from this to this. I want it to go back, right? So we do the same thing like we did with the hands, except I'm just going to copy all these layers and reverse them again. So it's going to from 1 to fade in. So I'm going to select 2 through 11. Well, I don't really need 11 actually, because then it's going to stay solid for a long time. So I'm going to do 2 through 10. I'm going to copy. Whoops, don't use copy. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go to the mini drop down and copy frames. I almost did it the wrong thing. You click copy frames in the mini drop down from the timeline. And then I click on the last one and I use the mini drop down to paste frames. It has to be copy frames, paste frames. If I just did copy paste, it would copy and paste the layer. And that's not what I want. So I want to paste it after my selection of 11. And now I have the ghost series again. Now you can see that I have to scroll now because I have so many frames in here. I have 20 frames. Okay, so I'm going to go to the end and I'm going to select all those ones I pasted. So that's from 12 to 20. And I press shift and select all of them. And then I'm going to reverse them so that it goes all the way up to a solid and then back down. So I'm going to reverse the frames. Okay, so now, and I want to make this play slower. So I'm going to select all of them. Make sure I got them all selected. Yep. And I'm going to just change I can change any of the drop downs when they're all selected. And now it's at 0.1. So let's go back to the beginning and see how it looks. It seems like it's jumping at the end. I'm going to go to the end. Oh, it's just playing weird, but it looks fine. Maybe when I save it. So now I go from a blank empty room to a slightly, and you don't have to make a ghost. You can use anything you want, but you still have to do the same sequence. Okay. So that's how you do it. And I'm going to stop this and then I'm going to show you another thing that you can do real quick that I didn't show anybody else. I'm going to stop record.